Thank you for joining us this afternoon. Forgive my background. I live in a very male-dominated house, and my posters on my basement wall reflect that, and that's what you're seeing in the background. My name is Ellen Dietrich, for those of you who don't know me, and I am the Director of College Counseling. And I'm joined today by Lauren Hoyt, who is the Senior Associate Director of College Counseling at Hill. And we just wanted to because we're living through such unusual times, we wanted to just go over some things, because I'm sure you all have a lot of questions, and give you some information that we hope will be helpful as you finish out this spring and go into the summer, and answer whatever questions you may have. So what we have on the screen here is the college counseling team. In addition to Lauren and myself, you'll see Megan Toomey, who's an assistant director of college counseling, Beth Allen, also an assistant director, Jade Johnson, who is an assistant director and also our testing coordinator. So you have all been assigned to a college counselor, but if you have a question about standardized testing, how to register, things like that, you'll speak to Jade. But if you have a question about when to test, you'll speak to your counselor. And Mike Murphy, who is our assistant director and student athlete coordinator, he does not work with all of our recruited athletes. They may work with another counselor, but if that is the case, you'll actually have two counselors. So you will work with your counselor and with Mr. Murphy. And then in the middle is Sue Rooney, Mrs. Rooney, who is our administrative assistant, who I believe is about to begin next fall her 30th year, I think, at the Hill School. So she is a treasure and will be a great support to you as you work with us through the process. So we're going to, Lauren, I don't know if you want to go to the next screen, but we're going to present you all with some information, and then listen to whatever questions you have. Please feel free to put things in the chat if you would like, and we will address them as we can. Lauren, I think, is going to be our tech person, which is better for all of us than me. So I'm going to hand it over to her for a few thoughts, and then I'll share a few, and then we'll open it up to whatever questions you might have. Thank you for joining us.
Excellent, thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Lauren Hoyt, and I'm the Senior Associate Director, as Ellen just mentioned, and can't see any video. Okay. So Ellen, if you don't mind handling the chat while I...
Sure.
Okay. Okay, and so I will just talk you through some of the things that we have prepared for you today. The first question that we have is, what can you be doing this summer? So as fourth form students, we really wanted to talk about this, and we're getting some of these questions already. One of the things that is important to note is that the virus is impacting everyone, and college admissions counselors have been incredibly reassuring and thoughtful in the responses to how this virus has impacted people, and how this virus might potentially impact what they see in students' applications. So because it is impacting everyone across the world, there is not an expectation right now that your summer is going to look like what you had planned. None of our summers are going to look like what we had planned. And instead, it's important that you use this summer and think about the summer in terms of what are the things that you would like to be doing, what are the new things that you get to do, and new ways you can explore what's important to you, what you care about, and what do you value, and what does that say about you. So for example, some students right now, if they have downtime, and not a lot of students have downtime as they're gearing up for finals, but some students might choose to use something like Duolingo to learn a new language, or might choose to take an online course through Coursera or something, just to explore and engage in something that they haven't already done. What I'm going to put in the chat that might be helpful is I'm going to put some information that admissions counselors have shared with us. And actually, it looks like I'm going to have to fiddle with that a little bit. I'm having a little bit of a technical issue there. But some admissions counselors have shared really great language in different articles that have come out since the virus, really reassuring students and telling students that, yes, you don't need to pack your resume full of different things that you were already planning. We know it's going to be different. It really is going to be okay. Do what you enjoy. Be creative, be authentic, find ways to engage in your community, find ways to do new and different things. And if those things are helping younger siblings who now are home because camp isn't available, that's okay. We can talk about all of those things in your admissions process. It's okay for things to look and be different this summer. One thing moving forward this fall, we have hired someone who is going to be part-time in our office. It's Jen Murphy. So Ellen already had up on the screen Mike Murphy. It is his wife, and she's going to be working in our office on summer programs. And so she's going to be working really closely with students and parents to work on working individually with students on finding summer program opportunities and helping them apply to it. So we're really excited about that position, and that's going to start this fall. Anything you want to add to what I've said, Mrs. Dietrich? Okay. All right, you're muted, but I'm assuming we're good.
I keep forgetting that. Yes, no, you're good. Thank you.
Okay, great. All right, so I'm going to move on to what you can expect next fall. So in addition to being able to expect a new position in our office that we're really excited about, you can also expect that when you return in the fall, students will be taking our college seminar class. So our college seminar class is taught by all of the college counselors. And in that class, we meet once a week, and we meet over the course of 10 class periods in both the fall and the beginning of the winter term. And we walk students through step by step all of the basic general knowledge that we feel like they need to know about the college process. So we talk to them about testing, we talk about the college search process, we introduce you to CIALFO, which is our application platform. We do some reflection exercises to have students think about and learn about how they learn best and what that means in the college process and what type of college environment might be best for them. And so we spend all of that time in these groups, really talking very generally about the college process. And then we have the college kickoff program in mid-December. And at the college kickoff program, we bring in admissions counselors and we create a case study. So we have 3 applications and 1 fictitious college, and we spend the time really being on the admission side is really quite a lot of fun, because all of the students and parents get broken up into admissions committees, and you get the opportunity to read through the fake student applications and work in small groups to decide who you're going to admit, who you're going to waitlist, and who you're going to deny. And it frequently gets a little bit heated, and that's quite a lot of fun. And then when we return from winter break, we then start working individually with the 5th formers. And it's really at that point that we work with the students to apply everything that the students learned in college seminar to their individual process. And then after that first initial meeting is when parents and guardians frequently get involved, and we'll have family meetings and continue working throughout the spring term. So that's a little bit about what to expect when you return in the fall. All right, anything to add with that, Mrs. Dietrich?
Nope.
Nope. Okay.
Great. So, and before I get started, if everyone could do us a favor and just mute your computers, it would. I don't know if anyone else is, but I'm hearing some background noise that would just be helpful if we could mute that out. Thank you. So, how do I start the college search process is a big question in and of itself, and it's certainly a bigger question when you add during a pandemic in there. And so, you know, I think it's going to be a little bit different for all of you right now because we're not sure what the fall and the next year is going to bring. So, I would say this. I think the first thing you should think about when you talk about how do I start this college search is think about who am I as a student? Who am I as a learner? What is best for me? What are my interests? What are my strengths? What are my areas of relative weakness? And really become very cognizant of those. Because if you are a student who really thrives on that close relationship with a teacher and getting extra help or going to those sessions and things like that, then you think about, does a really large institution make sense for me where I'm going to be in a class with 399 of my best friends, right? So really thinking about what it is that brings out your best learning is a great place to start. So when you start your college search process, you should not start with the college itself, right? Because that is putting the cart before the horse. That is thinking about a name of a school rather than the fit and what makes the most sense for you. Students, you are the most important people in this process, not the college itself. And so if you put yourself first, the chances of making a really good match with the college that's going to be, a place where you're going to be challenged but successful and really happy is greatly increased by thinking about you first, not the college first. I always say to students, don't think about what the college wants to see. Think about what I want to show them. And that's what you should start thinking about now. What is it about me that I want to be able to celebrate in the college process? What do I do really well? What are my interests, right? Start thinking about that. And think about those things that may seem superficial, but are really important when you go to think about college. How far away from home do I want to go? If I'm not a cold weather person and I have an 8 o'clock class, what are the chances of me getting up and going to that class when there's 5 feet of snow on the ground? If you're thinking there are not many chances, then maybe you start thinking, well, maybe I should look at Southern schools first. Think about those things like size. Size can make a big difference, right? But you can also be at a large institution with a smaller field. You can be at a smaller institution that has a larger field, depending upon the setting. Is it a really urban school? Do I want something that's just outside a city, but I have easy access to it? Or do I want something that's urban, but yet, or excuse me, large, but yet rural, like a Penn State? Or do I want something that's larger and urban? Lots of different combinations. So you got to try to think about those things, and those things matter greatly. They may seem superficial on the surface, but they are actually very important to a student's whole experience and to their happiness in college. So there are a lot of resources out there right now for you to start thinking about your college search. I would say don't do it right now, though. The most important thing for you right now is to be finishing out your Hill year in the best possible way you can, because that is what's going to serve you best in the college process, is concentrating on your Hill process, right? But then once that's done, what a lot of colleges are doing is, they all have virtual tours on their websites. A lot of them are doing webinars with admissions people. Hop on those. They're great ways to sort of collect information. I will be honest, I think some of the ones can be a little boring, and I think that's because colleges they really haven't had to rely on those as a recruiting tool or an information tool, because you've been able to get to campus. So I was just on a Zoom conference for a couple hours today with a couple of college people who were saying we are in the process of completely redoing our virtual tours and our programming online, because they're realizing how much they need that now. So, but those are really fun things to do. What I would not do, or what I would caution you to stay away from, are some of those resources that are really less helpful, like a College Confidential or you know, your dad's business partner's cousin who went to that college 20 years ago. That's not going to be relative information for your search and for your process. So you know, if you know you have some colleges that you have names in your head, just explore their websites and sort of see what you can learn. I will tell you that most colleges partner with some companies that track where you go on their website, how far long you stay in things. You know, in certain areas, did you know, if you're there in one area for 2 hours, they know you've probably gotten up and walked away and just left it open on your screen. All of those things can be can relate to what we call demonstrated interest. But the good news is they're not going to care about your demonstrated interest this year because you're still fourth formers. That will come more into play next year for you. So you should feel free to explore all of these websites and explore them in depth or not, whatever works for you with absolute freedom. And they're great places to get information. So you want to go to the next screen? Great. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about standardized testing, because I know that's probably on everyone's mind. I'm sure you're all aware that test dates have been canceled and they're getting added in. I think daily we have 3 or 4 colleges that say they're going test optional, either for just a year. So that would be this year's fifth formers, or some that are going for a 3-year plan. Like William and Mary just yesterday announced that they will be test optional for a 3-year time to see how that goes, and then they're gonna examine that data and what the caliber of the class that they let in versus the caliber of the class with testing. So you will all take a PSAT in October. And that's a really good thing to do, as opposed to the one you took this past year. This one will be considered for national merit standing. So that's the only difference there. We will be offering, again, practice ACTs as we've done before over the last few years. Some of you may have done that. And those are good things to do to see if an ACT is a better test for you. There are going to be test dates coming out. Right now there's one for SAT in August, September, October, November, and December. That may change based on where we are in terms of COVID-19. But my advice to you is this: just because you can test then does not mean you should. And one of the worst things you can do for yourself in this process is test too early and not do well. Because there are schools that will say to you, we want to see every test you've ever taken. And if you are not ready to do your best on that test, then that can come back to hurt you. It's only going to be fall of your fifth form year. You should not feel that you have to rush out to test in August or September or even October. Later in fall, early winter is fine. And quite honestly, the following March for the first time is absolutely fine for your process. So please don't rush to take that test. Now, some of you may be in advanced math and you may be ready to take that test, and that's okay. You all know who your college counselors are, or you should, because you got that information last January. If you don't, just contact us and we're happy to give it to you. But that is a question, please, before you go and take any test, please contact your counselor and have that discussion, because we don't want you to panic, take a test, and then have it come back to hurt you. We do on our website have very detailed information about standardized testing. If you have any questions about when or which test you should take, contact the counselor. If you have any questions about how do I register, how do I do this, please contact Jade Johnson in the office. You do not need to register for a PSAT. We do that automatically for you. The practice ACTs are a little different. So we will work that through our office. You'll hear about that. We do offer several standardized prep options. We've had a class on campus this year, which we hope to do again next year with Franklin Yard, if that in both the SAT and the ACT. Depending on where we are as a school and as a state and a nation in the fall, we can look to offering that online. We are partnered with Revolution Prep, which is an online test company, and you can do either private tutoring with them, or you can do semi-private, which is up to 4 kids in one group, or you can do larger ones with them. And we have all that information on our website. But if you want further information about test prep, speak to your counselor or speak to Mrs. Johnson. Again, I would not rush test prep, because I don't think it's really wise for any of you to test too early in the fall. I also would not be surprised, I don't know this for sure, but I was speaking with someone at the college board that they may be prioritizing those fall test dates for the rising seniors who have not had the chance to test really since last December, many of them. And so they may prioritize those students because it's more timely and necessary for those students to have those test dates. So you may not even be able to test until later in the fall or early winter. Don't panic about standardized testing. I know everyone's saying, what if I don't have tests? Really, that's okay. And most of these colleges are going test optional. And what that means is, if there are, say, 5 things that they consider when reviewing a student's final, or excuse me, a profile and application, it just means that now they're down to 4. And what that means is those 4 things become more important because there's not the 5th, right? It does not, and please hear me clearly on this, because I've gotten so many questions from some rising seniors who have reached schools that are going to be harder for them to get into. And those schools have now gone test optional. And I have kids saying to me, well, does that make that school easier for me to get into? The answer is absolutely not. Absolutely not. It means that they're not considering the testing. So everything else, the GPA, the essay, the letters of recommendation, etc., those things become more important. If your GPA, if it's a reach school for you to be admitted to, it's not just because of a test score, it's because of the overall profile that you offer. So remove the test scores, you've still got that overall profile. That school is still going to be in a reach category. Now, there are going to be exceptions to that, because in college counseling, there are exceptions to every sort of piece of advice we put out there, right? There may be some schools where, or for some students, that can be a help. But by and large, it is not going to make those reach schools in particular more feasible simply because they go test optional. So that is all I have in terms of information we wanted to present to you. I would offer one other thing though. We do have a college counseling Twitter account, and we are posting constantly a lot of articles that colleges are putting out, and a lot of, here it is, thank you, Lauren, and a lot of pieces of advice, things like that. So please follow us. We use that with great frequency, and we hope that it's a good resource for you in terms of information that is out there, and we're just sort of putting it together in an easier place to find. So we'd love to open this up to any questions you all might have. And I think the easiest way to do that, Lauren, is to just put them into the chat.
Right. If people can type it into chat, because everybody is muted right now, that would be helpful. One thing I wanted to mention, a question that has come up among several fifth formers that I'm working with, is because so many colleges are going test optional, they're wondering, should I still be testing? And at this point, we are recommending that students still test, because not every college is going test optional, and we don't know. It's hard to anticipate who is going to go test optional and what testing is going to look like in this fall. So for fourth formers, again, just what Mrs. Dietrich just said, that you need to test when you're ready and when it's appropriate for you. But we are still going to recommend that you test, even if colleges are going test optional right now. And we will certainly, there's a lot of unpredictability, and things are changing, and we are keeping up with those changes, and will communicate if our advice or recommendations need to change with any updates. All right, so any questions?
Wow.
We just did too good of a job.
That must be it.
Oh,
There we go.
what do colleges typically look for? Okay, so I know the summer will not be normal, as you said, but what do colleges typically look for you to be doing the summer following your fourth form year? Working, playing your sport, taking classes? Um, Great question. And yes to all of those. Colleges are looking for students to be engaging in the things that that make them excited and interested. And that can be a lot of for students who are looking to be recruited athletes, that frequently is doing something within their sport. That is the most common for a student, again, who's looking to be recruited. If it's camps or showcases, that's incredibly common. But the summer is really an opportunity for a student to engage in something that the school year doesn't allow them to engage in, to explore some passions and interests. And oftentimes for fourth form students, it is normal and expected that they don't know what their passion is. They don't know what their interest is. And that's when the summer can be a great opportunity for them to start that exploration process so that when it comes time to apply for college, the student can talk about that journey and the path that they've been on, where they've tried out different things that they thought they might be interested in. And sometimes that can be in the form of volunteering, that can be in the form of an internship, that can be in the form of a class on a college campus that is something more tailored and narrow than what we would offer in the high school level. There are so many options for students. Of course, this summer is the exception to that, right? A lot of the options are just going to look really different. And so, as we've been talking to primarily fifth form students, those options have taken the form more of what can you do online, because we know that nothing's happening, God forbid, nothing's happening to our internet. And so, what are the ways that they can engage in things that they're passionate about and explore those interests through online avenues? Or what are the ways that, again, they can help their community? How are they responding to the pandemic? And what is that making them want to do to serve others, right? So it really should be guided by the things that that student really wants to explore. And again, they don't need to know right now what they're passionate about, but it can be any of those things. And it is perfectly fine and great that the summer is working. Those are wonderful life experiences, where a student can really talk about the skills that they learned, the ways, the things that they learned about their community and about how businesses work, right? It doesn't have to be just one thing. After this, so I have not solved my technical blip, but I'm going to send out an article that I think that includes a lot of different quotes from different deans of admissions that speak to what this summer might look like, and talk about how the summer and extracurricular activities, it's not a checkbox, it's not filling the resume, it's how do those speak to who you are as a person, and what are you interested in? And again, I think the summer is such a great opportunity to speak to those in a more authentic way, because you're not as focused on school. You have so much more flexibility, and your schedule is so much wider. So,
Right. And I would just add, remember that this is not just Hill students who are dealing with this, right? And colleges are aware of that. It is nationwide. So they are going to be very understanding if this summer is not an opportunity to do something, if it's not present. I would say though, whatever you do, whatever extent you can do, there's no difference to a college if you have a job or you take a class or you do a community service trip. Those, one is not better than the other. What matters to a college is why you chose to do that and how you speak to it in your process. So it does not make sense to do something because you think it's going to look good on a resume if you have no interest in doing it, because the message you are then going to give is, I'm trying to build my resume, but it's not genuine. It's not authentic. They will see through that and it will actually hurt a student, right? So a job is great. A class is great. It doesn't matter. One is not going to make or break an application over another. but the way a student speaks to it with genuineness and authenticity, that is what can make or break an application.
All right, so there's another question. Any recommendations for SAT/ACT prep courses over the summer?
Yeah, I mean, the summer, again, you don't want to prep too far ahead of when you actually take the test, because unfortunately, I've read a lot of studies about SAT prep and ACT prep, and they will tell you that if you do it for too long, it actually hurts your scores. So you want to do it in a more sort of truncated period of time and take the test as soon as, right after that period of time. So again, we've put that message out there. We do not think, it may not even be possible, but we don't think it's a good idea in general for you to be testing in the fall, because it may, if you're not ready to do your best on that test, it may come back to haunt you. So I do understand, and I've gotten this a lot from kids in this class, should I be doing test prep over the summer? Kind of, because what else am I going to do, right? There may not be a whole lot of options, and that's fine. I would just say, and we do have the recommendations in terms of the companies that we have worked with. We're happy to connect you with them. We've gotten really good feedback on both. But I would say that you want to make sure you talk to your counselor first about what might be a reasonable and responsible testing calendar for you individually, and then how the prep might fit into that. Because if you and your counselor decide, based on where you are in math, based on where you are as a student, that may not make sense to do test prep or to test until next March, you do not want to do test prep this summer. And you don't need any test prep for the PSAT. It is, the P stands for preliminary. I always like to say it stands for practice. It doesn't go anywhere except for national merit consideration, and that is very, very few students. So we do have some recommendations. I believe they're on our website, but you can contact the counselor and also talk to Mrs. Johnson, and we can connect you. But again, I would suggest strongly that if you're considering test prep over the summer, please first reach out to your counselor and have that discussion about whether that makes the most sense based on when you might take the test.
Great. So the next question is, if we do not return in the fall, will the college STEM class be moved online, and how will the college counseling office help accommodate rising fifth formers? Thank you for asking that question. Yes, if we are not back in the fall, or if we need to provide a hybrid model, we will be offering that class virtually. And if our programming, I mentioned the college kickoff program. If we can't offer that in person, we will also provide that virtually, and we will certainly figure all of that out.
Yeah, we may also, and depending on where we are, we may take that college kickoff program and just do it a little bit later in the year to have it in person, if that's possible. If we know, gee, we're virtual until January, we'll just postpone that program because it's going to be a better program in person than it would be online, even though it'll still be good online.
Mm-hmm. Right.
The other thing is that you will have college seminar class, and then we'll do it exactly the same. It's just that your individual meetings with your counselor will be through this means, if we are online, rather than in person. But you will feel the full support of your counselor and the whole college counseling team, whether we are in person or online. So please don't be concerned about that. We are here to help and support. Are there any other questions? Okay, Lauren, do you want to maybe put the the first slide back up?
Mm-hmm. Hold on. Oh dear.
Right. Whoop.
Hold on one second. There we go.
Okay, so please feel free. Thank you all for joining us. Please feel free to contact us. We are really happy to help. But I just want to offer you a little bit of general advice, just to say, please try not to worry or stress about this. We are all in it together. One of the very big benefits of going to school like Hill, and Hill in particular, is that you have 6 counselors for a class of about 130 students, and you will get very individual attention. We are here to help you. So please feel free to reach out to your counselor directly. You are always welcome to contact me as the director with any questions, or if you think there's a way I can be of support. We will push out information to you through Twitter. We will hold more Zooms like this if we are online in the fall for you as fifth formers, both through the seminar class, but also for fifth form parents and for the class as a whole. Many of those will be content-based, probably, like we've done through this spring. We've had quite a few Zooms for fifth formers and for their parents. We had the one on paying for college just 2 nights ago, and we've had ones on, we had UCLA, Williams, and Trinity on about test optional. We've got one coming up on demonstrated interest. So we have a lot of different sort of content focused Zooms, which we will be offering again next fall if we are online. But we certainly hope to see you all in person on campus in the fall. That would be a dream come true for us, because we miss seeing all of you. But please feel free to contact us if we can be of any help. And thank you very much. I hope this was helpful, and we look forward to hearing from you. Please stay healthy and well.
All right.
Lauren, I think you can just hit end meeting for all as the host.
Okay, yeah, right. I'm making sure that,
There are no more questions.
yeah. Okay. Actually, let me, and yeah, okay. Looks like there are a couple, but folks still on.